We just had a deal fall apart the day it was supposed to close because the buyer demanded $10,000 in credit for an issue we'd already fixed. I'm gonna walk you through what to do when you run into this situation. Let's dive right in. So on this particular deal, I'm actually not sure if it's one I've shared with you guys or not. The property is a house in Columbus, Indiana. Incredible deal we got on this place. We bought the property for $150,000. We spent right at 15 grand between renovations and holding costs. We didn't do a ton. Carpet, paint, we fixed a issue in the crawl space where we put down a vapor barrier to keep moisture out. And that's pretty much it. So we're all into the place for roughly $165,000. We'd had professional pictures taken, which you should always do, listed on the MLS, and sold pretty much immediately for $235,000, which was our asking price. Not a bad deal, all in all, gonna net north of $50,000 on this thing. So it's pretty stoked about the place. Everything was going well. We did the inspection. One of the things that came up on the inspection was that there was like moisture and some slight amounts of water in the crawl space. This is in an area with a pretty high water table. What that means is not so much that it's like raining and water's leaking through. It's more like water's actually coming up through the ground. Now this particular area is actually where my wife's grandparents live, so very familiar with it. This particular property is on a crawl space. My wife's grandparents have a basement and it floods constantly from the groundwater just rising up. So very common in Indiana to have this happen. We put down what they call a vapor barrier, which is basically just like plastic clear tarping that separates literally the vapor or the moisture from the house to the ground, right? So went through inspection, that came up, got it fixed, good to go. We get to closing and they say, hey, we actually don't know that we like the vapor barrier because there's vapor under it. Like you can see moisture on it. And I was kind of like, well, yeah, that's the point. So they asked us for a couple days to get it like re-inspected, even though we were outside of our inspection window. So we pushed back closing. And they had a group go out there that's effectively known for just giving asinine bids for stuff. These people came back and said they wanted to do $17,500 worth of work. That's simply not necessary. In fact, like $10,000 of that was removing the vapor barrier and insulation and stuff just to like see what else they could find. We'd already had it inspected after the vapor barrier was down and we're told it was fine. We were good to go, right? So the buyer comes back and says, well, I don't know that I want to buy the house, right? And we're like, what do you mean? Like you're out of inspection. It's time to close. This isn't like I just don't want to buy it now. Like your inspector said the fix was fine, done up to code, good to go, right? So they came back and said, well, we have this bid for $17,000. We want you guys to do it. And we were like, absolutely not, right? We're not contractually obligated to. It's not even necessary. This would be like the equivalent of having like a local interior designer come out and bid you a kitchen remodel versus, like retail versus having like your local fix and flip guy do it, right? Like retail plus pricing on these repairs. So we came back and we were like, look, we're already supposed to have closed last week. If you still want the house, I'll throw you $2,000 because that's what it's going to cost me to go find another buyer in holding costs, interest, utilities, taxes, etc. Otherwise, pound sand, right? So they came back and they said, well, what about $10,000? And at this point, like, yeah, we could have taken the $10,000, right? We're making 50, so we still would have made 40. But you've got to know when to just like not be afraid to walk. So on this one, we said, absolutely not. $2,500 final offer. They came back and said, we're going to go find something else. So we took the property, had it pended, had to put it back on market. We'd originally listed it in December, which was like the worst time of the year to sell a house. So we bumped the price by a couple grand. We actually sold for $5,000 more, had 5 offers in a bidding war, all within 24 hours. So instead of giving them $10,000 of our profit, we're going to actually make $5,000 more and not have to deal with those issues. The other thing that's nice is the first buyer was a physician's loan, which is kind of like FHA. There's like some weird, goofy requirements and stuff. The people that are buying it now are conventional, meaning like there's not any of that BS that we'd have to deal with, even though we already fixed all that stuff. Anyway, but why I wanted to talk about this, a lot of fix and flippers, a lot of wholesalers make the mistake of mentally spending their money before they have it. If I was in a position that like I budgeted out where I had to have this $50,000, $60,000 the day it was supposed to close and then they didn't close, I'd be freaking out. And I'm here to tell you, like, stuff happens in real estate where things get pushed back, you fall out of contract. We had one property that was in like a rougher area where the buyer pool wasn't ideal that went in and out of contract 4 times before the sucker finally closed. It wasn't inspection issues or anything. It was they kept doing dumb stuff like going and buying a car or, getting locked up or stuff like that, right? So stuff happens. I think real estate influencers, and like, I hate even using that term, like about myself, tend to leave these kinds of details out. So just like real talk with you guys, there's a gap between when you spend money versus when it comes back in. And that's typically going to be like 45 to 90 days. So if you spend a whole bunch of money on marketing, you're not going to have necessarily made it back or turned a profit within like 2 weeks. So don't have that expectation. I'm just going to be totally honest with you guys. At the time of shooting this video, I have $45,000 out that I've spent on direct mail from Ballpoint Marketing that I'm waiting on deals to close to recoup my money as well as get my return on investment. Now, here's the thing. On just the first like 28,000 of that, we've got 11 deals under contract. 4 of those are properties like this one I'm talking about that we're going to make roughly 50,000 bucks on. So all in all, like, I'm good, right? But I would be lying if this is kind of like my issue with the guys that say, oh, you can do BRRRR deals without like any of your own money. Well, no private lender is going to give you $50,000 to go spend on marketing and then like, just pay them back whenever. This is my own cash that I have out that I have no guarantee of getting any results off of, that we've only sent 30,000 of it so far. I've got 11 deals out of it. I just dropped another 15,000 bucks, but it's probably going to be another 2 to 4 weeks before deals start to close off of that first $30,000. So as an investor, you've just got to be aware of this gap that you're going to have and that things don't always go perfectly according to plan. Real talk, let's say that $45,000 wasn't my cash and it was all on like American Express. Let's say my payment was due the day that was supposed to close. Like, don't set yourself up like that because a lot of this stuff is outside of your control. So the moral of the story on this one is really, you've just got to know when to cave and you've got to know when somebody's trying to take advantage of the situation. This guy wanted the house. Their lender told us, hey, we're good. We're ready to go. We're ready to close. I just think that they were being a little greedy personally, and you've got to be okay walking away. The minute that you're afraid to walk away or, pull out of a deal or say, hey, we're going to go back on market, you've really lost all your leverage as a real estate investor and as a business owner. Does it suck that I didn't get paid the $50,000, $60,000 I was expecting to get last week? Yeah, absolutely. But I'm going to get an extra $5,000 more, and it's only going to take me a month. My holding costs subtracted, that's an extra $2,500, $3,000 that we're going to be able to pocket without really doing any additional work. One kind of just final thing I have here in closing, I do have a private lender on this deal. We pay 8 to 9% interest. We typically do like a 1 to 2 year term, depending on what we're doing. On this particular loan, we're going to have our investors cash out for realistically like 120 days. Anytime we're doing one that short, we do pay like a 1% origination fee just to kind of make it worth their while. But if you have a lender, hard money lender, basically anybody other than like a typical bank or your own cash, you want to make sure that you communicate frequently and often. My lender on this deal got like before, during, after pictures. Hey man, we're listed on the MLS. Look at how great these pictures look, kind of updates. Hey, we've got 15 showings today. Yeah, hey, we've got a bidding war. We accepted an offer. The second that this guy started pushing back of saying, hey, I know this was re-inspected by my guy and he liked it, but I'm going to go get, second and third opinions. we hit our lender up and we said, hey, we've heard this song before. I know we're supposed to close on Wednesday, but I actually don't think that's going to happen. I'll keep you in the loop. Didn't close Wednesday. It said, hey, we've talked to the title company and the buyer. We're supposed to close on this thing early next week. I'll keep you in the loop. When the guy came back and said, hey, I got this ridiculous bid, we said, hey, he got some, insane bid from some like retail group. So I don't know that this is going to close. Told our lender, we offered him a settlement. Hey, he declined it. We're going back on market, right? We've got a 12-month agreement with this lender. So in theory, I could just be like, oh yeah, well, I'm still good to go. So I don't need to talk to you about it or like get your permission or approval on it. But the way we view it, like the people that invest with us, we like to keep them involved in the process. And if I tell them, hey, you're going to get your money back on Wednesday, and then that doesn't happen, they need to know about that in advance, because similar to investors, they might have been planning on getting that cash back and doing something with it, personally, right? So just because you have like time left on a loan doesn't mean that you don't need to communicate and communicate often. Thank you guys for watching today's video. My name is Ryan Dossey. Hopefully you enjoy knowing, how much cash I have out or risked on real estate, or real estate marketing alone, that is, because I've got cash out on flips and other stuff as well. But if you run into a situation like this, you got to know when to hold them. You got to know when to fold them. In this instance, it was one where I just told the dude to pound sand and we're going to make more money for it. Hopefully you guys enjoy kind of just this like what actually goes on behind the scenes of real estate investing. I appreciate you taking the time to hang out with us. Again, my name is Ryan Dossey. Be sure to like and subscribe. Talk to y'all next time.